Alright, so here we're going to create a very simple, very quick web server. So I've navigated to the node about page, which I referenced just right above this video. And here this page lists a little bit of code for creating a web server, and it goes into very, very brief, high-level detail about a couple aspects of nodes, so a little worth reading. So what we'll do is I've created a file with similar code, but not the same code as that previous site. And I'll go into kind of more of what this code is doing later in the guide, so don't worry about necessarily understanding everything, but a couple aspects are what we're doing is we're creating this variable here, server, which will hold the server, and we're using the HTTP module and using the create server function on that, which also holds a function which has parameters request and response. And we're not doing anything with the request variable here, which essentially means that for any sort of request, it's going to give this exact same response. We're not handling any sort of request parameters. So what it's doing is it's taking the response and it's writing status code 200 content type text plain as the response, and then response.end signifies that the response is over and everything has been written and done, and then it ends with this message. And then we take the server and we tell it to listen on port 3000, and this is an IP address, but this parameter here is actually a URL, so you're just telling it to listen on that port at that URL. And then we will log this message, which will just essentially tell us that the server has worked. So to run this, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the command prompt, and the file that I just showed you is in this directory, so we can just type node webserver.js, run it. As you can see, that console.log showed up, so the server is running. This blinking line here is telling us that this server is continually running right now, so we can't enter anything else in the current command prompt because it's running that server. So if we go back to our web browser, we can navigate to the URL and port that we created our server on. It actually just refreshed for me automatically, but if you click refresh, voila, you just created a web server and we're done. And to add a little more detail, if we want to, we can pull up the DevTools for Chrome, go to the Network tab, click refresh, and every time we click refresh, you can see the details of the response that we're sending via our Node web server. Here's the method, 200 status, okay, type text plain. This is the message that goes with the response.end. So there you go. Just in that amount of code, we just created a fully working web server. So pretty cool.